Hey, hi, and howdy to all my sweet friends out there. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Courtney. I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. I do a lot of food and kitchen related content, grocery hauls, what's for dinners, meal preps, all that kind of stuff. So if you are into cooking, if you like being in your kitchen, smash that subscribe button, stick around, check out my playlist. I've got a ton of stuff to see here, and I am so grateful to all of you who do join me here every single week. All right, y'all, it is almost Thanksgiving. I really was worried I would not be able to get one of these videos out because we had been so sick for so long. It felt like so long. It was like a week, but it just felt like an eternity in my mind. I was watching my video from last year just get a ton of views this week, and I really just wanted to make this happen. So here we go. I am throwing together a really simple but traditional, easy Thanksgiving meal. It does not cost a fortune, and this meal will feed between 8 and 10 people, depending on like how many kids you're feeding. You know, kids eat a little bit less, so sometimes you can stretch it a little bit further. So we're going to kick it off by prepping for our dressing. I'm going to make a simple sourdough bread dressing. So I've got some sourdough bread there. I just bought it at Walmart. It's just their sourdough loaf, and I sliced up about 3/4 of it, cubed it into little bite-sized pieces, and I'm going to put it in a 200-degree oven. We're not toasting it to develop color. We just want to dry the bread out. So while it's doing its thing, we're going to go ahead and prep our butter that we're going to rub all over our turkey. I'm just using a turkey breast. We're going to put it in the slow cooker. I've never done this in the slow cooker before. I always do my turkeys in the oven, but I wanted to try something easier and different this year. So I've got about half a stick of butter because it is just a turkey breast, and I am mixing in garlic powder, onion powder, celery salt. I've got some parsley, a little bit of thyme, and I did forget to add sage to it, but you will see me remedy that right before we rub this onto our turkey. I did add some sage. Now, if you don't want to do all that, you could just stick with salt, pepper, garlic, onion, and poultry seasoning. Either way is fine. Typically, poultry seasoning has parsley, rosemary, thyme, and sage. And I think it actually contains a tiny bit of nutmeg, which I'm not putting in here. But essentially, they're pretty much the same. Now, after you've got all of that in there, I use celery salt, so I didn't really add any more salt in there, but if you just use regular celery seed or skip that completely, make sure you add some salt, add some pepper, and then I am zesting one of these tiny little oranges, just one of those little halos, the cuties. So there's probably about a teaspoon of zest in there, and I showed you I'm not taking it down to the white. The white is bitter. You just want to barely get the skin off of there. That's where all the essential oils of the orange are, and that's where that beautiful flavor is. And then I added in about a tablespoon of orange juice, and then I'm also adding in about 2 tablespoons of applesauce. The go-go squeeze is all I have because it's what I keep on hand. But I will tell you, if you guys have like the big just regular jar of applesauce, that tastes way better. The go-go squeezes are a little bit sour, like lemony kind of. I guess it's something they use to preserve them and keep them good in that package. I do prefer the jar stuff, but my younger 2 children eat the go-go squeeze, so that's what I had on hand. I just went ahead and mixed that all together, and that's prepped and ready to rub all over our bird. So I'm just gonna drop a bunch of goodies in the bottom of the slow cooker just to lift the bird off of the bottom. So I've got 3 ribs of celery, an apple, and an onion that I just diced up into big cubes and put them down there. And here's my turkey breast. This is a great deal. This is a lot of meat. I paid like $11 and some change for it. And this will feed a lot of people. It's a lot of turkey. It's at least 8 people's worth of turkey, if not more. So I'm just gonna take that compound butter that we made, and I did show you that sage there. I did add it in there. You never wanna forget sage. It is really one of those essential flavor profiles when it comes to holiday cooking. But I'm just gonna shove some of this butter up under the skin of this bird. It's gonna be hard to do because it doesn't want to stick to the meat in there, so just kind of shove up a ball of it and then massage it around just to get it all over the meat. Now, I'm using dried herbs today, but in the past I've used fresh herbs, and I will tell you that I think they are much better. But if you want to save a buck or you just don't happen to have any on hand, these dried herbs really come through in a pinch, and this tasted so fabulous, so good, so delicious. The apple and the orange really bring kind of a harvest flavor to it. It's not overpowering, you barely taste it, but it's there, and it makes a difference. And I'm going to use all of that butter that we made, and any that I have left over, I'm just going to kind of put on top. I might have had just a little bit that I set on top. And of course, we want to season the outside of the skin too. I'm just using salt and pepper and a couple of the herbs that we threw in that butter. just so that there's plenty of flavor to go around. And we're going to cook this in the slow cooker. Every turkey or turkey breast should have instructions for the slow cooker. It will vary by the size of your turkey. This I did for about 5 or so hours, and I did check the temperature before I moved on to the next step. We are going to brown it so that the skin gets nice and crispy. We just need to get it cooked all the way through first. So while the turkey's doing its thing, you always want to get that going first because it'll take the longest. We're going to move on to the dressing. So I took a pound of sausage, just regular Jimmy Dean sausage, and I browned it, and then I removed half of it. So we're only going to need half a pound of sausage for this recipe. If you're making for a lot of people, of course, you'll want to double it. So once my sausage is browned, I threw in a little bit of butter because my pan was looking a little bit dry. And I threw in a couple of ribs of celery and some onion that I minced up, and then 1 apple. I left the skin on. This is going to cook so much and cook down that the skin's not going to be an issue. You just want to kind of get that flavor in there. We're pulling all this together by keeping our flavor profile similar in a lot of these dishes, and that will make your entire meal more cohesive. Now we want to take a minute to season this. This is going to be our dressing, so we want to season it with, I'm really not putting much salt in there. This sausage is salty, and I'm going to be using bouillon to make some chicken broth in a little bit, which is also very, very salty. So I'm going to really kind of skip on the salt. But if you're not doing that, you might want to add some salt here. I added a lot of pepper. We like a lot of pepper on our food. And I'm also tossing in similar herbs to what we rubbed on the chicken. I've got parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, just like that old song from, I don't know, was it the 60s or 70s? It was before my day, but it is a fun song. And it always makes you remember the herbs that we need for our holiday cooking. If you don't have those separately, just throw in your poultry seasoning here. That's just great. That's perfect. And of course, you want to make sure you've got some garlic powder in there as well. Just a little hint of it, just a pinch. You don't want the garlic to be overpowering, but you do want that flavor profile in there. And we're just going to let this cook for a couple of minutes and let our vegetables soften and get translucent. And then I added in some diced up walnuts. You could use chestnuts if those are available to you. They are not really available in my area. I've seen them once or twice before, but not something I can easily get. I just use walnuts. You could use pecans. I don't love pecans. I usually sub walnuts in their place. And we want to let those nuts cook for about 3 minutes or so, just to kind of toast a little bit and develop some flavor. And then we're going to mix all of our ingredients together. I've got that bread that I dried out in the oven. You'll notice there's no color to it. I literally just toasted it enough to dry all the moisture out of it so that it's ready to go and absorb our chicken broth that we're about to use to create this dressing casserole. So I put all of that in there. And first you want to mix your ingredients together. You want to make sure that it's kind of evenly dispersed before we start throwing in any liquids. And then we're going to slowly add in our chicken broth. You could use turkey broth if you're buying it from the store. I'm just working with what I have on hand and using what I have. So I'm just using chicken bouillon powder to make some chicken broth. And I did make about 2 cups, and I used probably close to 1.5 to 1 3/4 cups in total. But it always varies whenever I am making any kind of dressing. So I hate to give exact measurements on that because you may need more, you may need less. It just depends on so many things, like how humid is it in your house? Are you using sourdough bread? If you're not, maybe you wanted to sub French bread for it, which is cheaper. Those things really do make a difference. So just add in as much as you need until this starts to come together. You want the bread to get just slightly soggy so that it kind of starts getting a little bit gooey, and that's what holds this together as a casserole. So just keep adding in and mixing until you hit that consistency. Now, for those of you out there that are looking for a more traditional cornbread dressing, I have got you covered. I am linking my video from last year down below, and I did make a very traditional cornbread dressing in that. It is my mother's recipe, and it's our favorite. I was just trying something different for this particular video today. I haven't made this one in a long time. We used to really enjoy it, so I thought I would share it today. It's pretty simple, and it has a lot of great flavors in it. But make sure you taste test, add some more salt and pepper if you need to, anything else, just to get it to the flavor that you're looking for. And you do want it to be just a little more wet than what you want the final product to be. We're going to set this to the side for about 30 minutes and let it kind of soak up completely and be done. And then we're going to bake it, which will dry it out a little bit more. So 350 degrees for about 30 minutes and your dressing is done. It's that easy, it's that simple, and you can make this ahead. Now we're gonna make some good old-fashioned traditional green bean casserole, one of my absolute favorite dishes at the holidays. I make mine from scratch, and I do not use a can of cream of anything soup. I use my homemade cream soup base. I did just do a video about that, so I will link that down below if you're interested in making yours from scratch. I did start off by caramelizing about half of an onion that I minced really, really finely. And then I tossed in 4 strips of bacon that I had chopped up into bacon bits. Then I took about 3/4 of a cup of my dehydrated mushrooms and soaked them in 1.5 cups of hot water for about 5 minutes. And I mixed it with half a cup of my cream of soup base. Again, I'm linking that down below if you're interested in making it at home for yourself. This comes together very fast. You just have to heat it up and it thickens just right before your eyes. I'm going to go ahead and season this a little bit with some pepper and some parsley and some garlic powder. We do have onion in there, so we really don't need any more onion powder in here. But just a few simple seasonings. I am skipping the salt because we're going to go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce and 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, which is salty. So we're not going to need that extra salt added in here. Now, if you taste it and you decide your family wants more salt, feel free to add it. Always taste as you go just to make sure it's hitting the notes that you want it to. But for us, this was perfect. And this is done and ready to go. It comes together super fast. I'm going to go ahead and add in 16 ounces of green beans and get them mixed in and heat it through just a little bit. And we're going to put this in a greased casserole dish. I'm just doing a small one. This casserole will feed about 8 people. It makes a pretty decent amount, maybe 6. We do smaller portions of this one because it is pretty rich. But I do put it in that greased casserole dish, and then if it ain't broke, don't fix it, y'all. I top it with the fried onions because they're fabulous. We all love them here in this house. My son just snacks on them like chips. I mean, they're so delicious. So I always just go traditional and throw those right on top. I do a pretty heavy-handed layer just because, like I said, we really like them. And they add a great crispy texture once you bake this. So I topped my casserole with these. And then I just set this to the side for a little while in the fridge because I had a lot of other things to cook. But this does need to heat through at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes to be done. No lid, no foil, nothing, so that those onions get super crispy and delicious. All right, what is Thanksgiving without rolls? I've shared this recipe before on my channel. This is an Amish white bread recipe. I'm listing it or linking it down below. I make this almost every single week, and it makes 1 loaf plus a set of dinner rolls. So it's a lot of bread. You can make 2 loaves of bread, or you can make a whole ton of dinner rolls, just depending on how you want to divide yours up. But I always do dinner rolls for 1 or 2 meals and then a loaf of bread. My son likes to use it for toast and stuff. It's really good. So I started off by adding in a couple of cups of warm water, about 110 degrees. Don't go over that because it will kill your yeast. I added in about a tablespoon of honey, and then I throw my yeast in and let it do its thing for about 5 to 10 minutes till it gets all nice and frothy. Now I'm going to tell you the recipe calls for a cup of water and a cup of milk. I was out of milk, so I just used all water, which I do sometimes, and it works fine. Don't worry about it. If you don't have milk, the water is great. If you do have milk, it does make the bread a little bit richer, I have to say, but that's totally up to you. So then I added in my salt, a 1/4 cup of coconut oil, and my flour is about 5.5 cups. And I just let my mixer do the work for me and knead it for about 8 minutes. And I set it to the side, and we're going to let it rise. So while our bread is rising, we'll go ahead and move on to cranberry sauce. I love to make this from scratch because it's super simple and I think it tastes way better than the can. So I have 1 bag of fresh cranberries that I sorted through, pulled out the bad ones and rinsed. Then I added in half a cup of orange juice and half a cup of water. I added in a pretty generous sprinkle of cinnamon, probably about 1/4 to half a teaspoon. Then I added in a generous squeezer of vanilla there. I'm going to say a teaspoon, but I know I use way more than that. And I'm not even sorry about it, y'all, because vanilla just makes this so, so good. I'm also adding in 3/4 of a cup of sugar, but feel free to add more later because I've discovered every batch of cranberries is different. Some are a lot more tart than others. Sometimes you need a little more sugar to make this good because that tartness can really, really get out of hand very easily. I also zested up about a teaspoon of orange zest there. Then we're just going to put the lid on and simmer this until all of your berries burst open. That's how you know that they're done. Then we're going to go ahead and give this a nice stir. Take the lid off and let it simmer just open on the stove for about 8 to 10 minutes so it'll thicken. Now here's your moment to taste test it. You want to make sure that the sweetness is where you want it. Mine was still very, very tart, so I added in another 1/4 cup of sugar, and this turned out to be really, really perfect. So good, and it thickens while it cooks on the stove, and then it'll set like a gel in your refrigerator. All right, on to our dessert. I've done pumpkin pie before on my channel, and I wanted to do something different, so we're gonna do this, I don't even know what to really call it. It's kind of like an apple crisp, I guess, or an apple cobbler. But I went ahead and peeled and diced up 4 Gala apples, and then I added in about a tablespoon of lemon juice. And this is going to be like an apple pie filling. Now you could totally go buy canned apple pie filling at the store. You do not have to make this from scratch. I just chose to make it from scratch because I really, really wanted to, and I wanted to work on this particular recipe that I had floating in my brain. So to my apples with lemon juice, I went ahead and added a little bit of cloves, a little bit of nutmeg, and a lot of bit of cinnamon because we like cinnamon. I could have actually added more cinnamon than I did, but this still turned out yummy and delicious. And we're also going to add in some orange juice in here as well. I'm trying to really tie together all these beautiful fall flavors. You know, orange and apple are just so prevalent this time of year, and those smells and those tastes are so delicious. Then I've got those warm spices in there with the nutmeg and the cinnamon and the clove. So I'm super excited about this. Now I'm doing a small batch of this because there's only 5 of us. So I'm only going to end up using half of the cake mix you see in the background there for our cobbler topping. But if you wanted to make this for a lot more people, definitely double the amount of apples or use 2 cans of pie filling. But this is just perfect for us. So I did add a little bit of cornstarch, so it'll thicken up the liquid that comes out of the apples and the orange juice and lemon juice as this cooks. And then I added a little squirt of vanilla because vanilla just makes everything taste better. And this is basically our pie filling. Now, if I was going to go buy the stuff at the store, then I would get the caramel apple pie filling just because I'm going to add some caramel here in a minute to make it super yummy. But you can use whatever pie filling you want. In the past, I've made something similar using the cherry pie filling and a devil's cake mix. So just get creative with it. Now I did go ahead and add a little bit of brown sugar in there just to make sure that this was a really nice and sweet pie filling. 1 to 2 tablespoons depending on how sweet you like it or how tart your apples are. And then we're going to put that into a greased baking dish. And now we're going to top it with caramel. I just get the syrup from the, like with the ice cream toppings, and drizzle on as much as you want. I mean, it does have a pretty strong flavor. So I'm going to say let's stick with probably 3 tablespoons max. I think I did about 2. And then we're going to use this cake mix as our cobbler topping. Like I said, I'm only using half of it because I'm just doing a small batch of this. So I'm just going to pour half the bag right on there. And then we're going to top this with half a stick of butter that I slice up into little thin slices. And you want to make sure that that butter is evenly distributed all over the top of your dessert here, because that and the juices that bubble up from the apples are what's going to mix with the cake mix to make your cobbler topping. It's going to make it kind of bready, and it'll bake together and be like this wonderful, deliciously flavored topping. Now, you can use any flavor cake mix you want or that you can find, but I think spice cake is the best for this particular dish. However, if you can't find that, I would definitely say go with carrot cake mix next. And if you can't find that either, just regular golden butter cake mix would be my third choice for this. And it's going to be absolutely fabulous and delicious. Now, once this bakes at 350 degrees for 40 minutes, you want to just go ahead and serve it up and top it with some vanilla ice cream. So good, so yummy, so delicious. And it's way easier to make than an apple pie. All right, next we're gonna make this creamy corn casserole. This is my son Jensen's favorite thing. My mom makes it, so he calls it gamma corn. So anytime we go visit her, he always asks for her to make gamma corn for him. So he has this year round. I also make it for him because she gave me the recipe, and I'm gonna make it today because my mom always serves this with holiday meals. So I've got a tablespoon of butter and 3 ounces of cream cheese that I am softening and melting together here on the stove. Just whisk it together and it'll form this really lovely creamy sauce there. You want to go ahead and add some salt and some pepper in here. I don't add any pepper just because Jensen doesn't like pepper, but it does taste really good with pepper. And then just a hint of onion powder, about half a teaspoon or less. And that's it, with 16 ounces of corn. A can of corn, strain it, dump it right in. That easy. I'm heating it through and then just putting it in a dish. You can reheat it in the oven if you want to, but this is ready to serve once the corn's heated through. Super simple, but this tastes so good. If you really want to kick it up a notch, add in some bacon because my gosh, that is absolutely delicious. All right, let's check back in with our bread now. It had doubled in size, so it's time to work with it. I've dumped it out on my little silicone mat there, and I'm just going to kind of knead it around for a minute or two just to kind of pull it together and work it for a second. And like I said, this will make 2 loaves of bread, or you can make a whole ton of rolls, or you can do one of each, which is what I do pretty much every single week. I just cut it in half and make 1 nice loaf of bread, and then I make some rolls. Now, my rolls are on the big side. I'm very generous with them. They could almost be hamburger buns. That's just the way I make them, and we like them. But you can make them smaller. You're going to see that I get 8 rolls out of this, but you could totally get 16, I think. And there's my loaf of bread. I'm not a baker, y'all. I'm really not. I mean, I bake things, but I'm not a baker, so I just kind of rolled it up and then placed it in my loaf pan. I do put that parchment paper in the center like that just because it makes it easier for me to get it out of the pan to put the bread on the cooling rack later so it can cool. Well, I couldn't find my bench scraper, so I'm working with a knife today, which is a huge no-no on silicone mats. So as you can see, I'm trying to be very careful not to let the blade touch the silicone mat. And as a result, I really didn't divide that up very evenly at all because I was really focused on just not cutting the silicone, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm making 8 rolls today, and they are very generously sized. Again, totally make 16 if you want. These were large rolls. But I'm dividing that up into 8 equal portions. And I do want to say one more time, not a baker here. So in a second, when I show you my technique for how I make my rolls, I don't know how accurate that is or if it's the proper way to do anything, but it's the way I do it. I just kind of start pulling and stretching the sides and putting them in the middle like that. And then once I've done that and it's really smooth, I pinch those ends together and then I roll them on the counter just to kind of seal it. Get a nice little ball like that. That's how I do it. Don't know if it's right or not, but it works for me. These rolls are always delicious and airy and wonderful. So give it a shot if you're not a baker. If you are and you know the proper technique, do that. But these always work for me. I'm an amateur and my family loves them. Everybody I've served them to loves them. These are very similar to like Hawaiian rolls because they are a little bit sweet. Very yummy, very, very, very delicious, and I highly recommend this recipe. I will link it down below. It's not mine, it's one I found on Pinterest, and I just use it pretty much every single week. It is so yummy and so, so delicious. So I do let these rise on some parchment paper there on the pan they're going to bake in. I let them sit for close to an hour. When they double in size, I know they're pretty much done and good to go, and we'll bake them in the oven. So while they're rising, I thought, let's make some Texas Roadhouse butter. So I've got some butter that I softened just half a stick. And to it, we're going to add some honey and some powdered sugar and some cinnamon. That's all there is to it. Just mix it together. I like to let mine set for about 30 minutes just so that the flavors kind of come together. But it is that easy to make. So while we're whipping that together, I do want to take a minute to thank you guys so much for joining me here. I know that the holidays are rolling around and it's everybody's super busy time of year. So I really appreciate that you've chosen to spend a few minutes here on my channel supporting me. That does mean a lot to me. It means more than you'll know. I love putting out these videos. I'm having a great time here on YouTube, and it makes it even more fun to build a little community here. So thank you guys so, so much for that. Now there's our bread. It has risen, and there's what it looks like after it bakes. So, so yummy. Yes, I ate a roll already. I had to test out the butter, y'all. All right, here we go. Last dish, we're gonna roast some potatoes. This one's simple. This one you can do year round, but I'm doing it today. I think I've shown you guys my mashed potatoes before, and I did sweet potatoes last year. And again, I am linking 2 videos from last year down below if you guys want to see those as well, or get some different recipes. And I will list or link all the recipes from this video down below as well. There's a lot of stuff going on in my description box, so be sure and check it out. Just scroll through all of it. I know it's a busy place down there, but there's a little information you guys might really enjoy. All right, we're gonna make some roasted potatoes. I've got baby potatoes because I think they're delicious and they're easy to work with. And we're just gonna kind of coat them in a vinaigrette. So I put some garlic oil in the bottom of my dish there. If you don't have garlic oil, just put olive oil or avocado oil or something in there and add some garlic powder, some onion powder, some salt and some pepper. And then I'm throwing in some herbs that mirror what we've been using today. So I've got some rosemary and thyme and some parsley. I'm not putting sage in here. I don't feel like they need sage, but the rosemary and thyme are really delicious on potatoes. And of course, parsley is just kind of fun on everything. And also throwing in some red wine vinegar. This is a little vinaigrette. If you have not put a vinaigrette on potatoes before, this is your moment to try it, y'all. It's really good. It doesn't make them taste like salt and vinegar chips or anything like that. Potatoes are super bland, so it just adds this beautiful, rich flavor profile to them. Just that little hint of acidity just brings out some really deliciousness here. But I'm just gonna cut these guys in half and toss them right into that vinaigrette. And then we're just gonna stir them around, make sure everybody gets fully coated in the vinaigrette. That's where all of our flavor is. And again, potatoes are super bland. So we would definitely wanna make sure that they get lots and lots of flavor on them. You can do this with any type of potato. If you've got full-size russets or yellow potatoes or whatever, it's all fine. I just really like these. and I like the way they cook up, and I don't have to peel them or anything. It's just super simple. But I'm giving them a good stir, making sure everybody gets in the pool. We want flavor all over every bit of these potatoes. And then we're just going to kind of dump them out on that parchment-lined baking tray. You don't have to line it with parchment, but I am going to tell you the cleanup is so much easier when you do. Sometimes they leave like a lot of little burnt bits behind because we're cooking these pretty high. So I do recommend parchment paper just to save yourself a step later. We're going to make sure these are all cut side down, and then we're going to bake them at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. I'm not trying to get these super crispy or anything. We're just roasting them and developing that vinaigrette flavor and softening the potato. However, if you want them to be like super crispy and brown and caramelized on the bottom, you'll want to go just a little bit longer than the 30 minutes, and they'll be absolutely fabulous. But these were perfect for me. I was so thrilled with them. There's our turkey. It has been cooking in the slow cooker all day long, and you see all the beautiful juices that have rendered out of it. And I am checking the temperature. 165 is where you're done, and we are going to hit 200 degrees. So we know this guy is finished, but we want to crisp up that skin, give him some color. So I just took all the juices out of the bottom and turned on the air fryer setting because I have an all-in-one. Now, if you don't, just pop yours under the broiler for 5 or 10 minutes. Keep a close eye on it so you do not burn the skin. I did mine under the air fryer setting at 375 degrees for 10 minutes, and oh, it was so beautiful. So we're going to take those drippings that we removed from the bottom of the slow cooker and turn them into gravy. I'm just kind of like winging it. I threw a little knob of butter that I had left over, and I wasn't exactly sure how much it was. And then I'm just slowly adding in flour till it reaches the consistency that I know a roux is supposed to be. However, for exact measurements, you want 2 tablespoons of butter or oil, 2 tablespoons of flour, and 2 cups of liquid to get a very nice gravy. That is the exact measurement. If you need it, I just kind of wing it with what I've got. So, like I said, threw in that random knob of butter, we're melting it down, and we're slowly whisking in the flour, and I let it cook for just a minute or two to cook out the flour taste, and then I'm adding in the roughly 2-ish cups of liquid that were in the bottom of my slow cooker. And you want to whisk, because that's what gets all the lumps and clumps out. That's how you get a really nice smooth gravy. And there's already tons of flavor in this because we're using the drippings from the turkey. So all the herbs that we cooked in the turkey with that butter and all the vegetables that were in the bottom, they've all added flavor to this. And there it is when it's all browned and crispy, so delicious. And there's a full spread: cranberry sauce, corn, green bean casserole, turkey, gravy, roasted potatoes, homemade rolls, and dressing. It's a full meal. This is so simple to make. As far as like a full Thanksgiving meal goes, this is pretty darn budget friendly too. And anyone can make it, no matter your cooking skill. I kept this super, super simple. It's not complicated. And it just kind of makes your holidays a little bit easier. I do want to thank you guys so much for joining me here. I hope your holiday is fantastic. I hope you and your family enjoy all your time together. And I hope you have some wonderful, lovely food. I do have a grocery haul coming out on Tuesday. There is no video on Thursday, but I will have my what's for dinner up on Saturday, and we'll just kind of see what happens after that. And maybe I'll have some extra videos for the holidays. Who knows? I've got lots of ideas floating around in my head. So I hope to see you guys really soon here on my channel. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. I love y'all. I'll see you soon. Bye.